Hello and welcome everyone. This is Dr. Tom Chaney and welcome to Surviving and Thriving Through the Coronavirus Pandemic. This is part 11. And today, Dr. Steph's going to do a deep dive into nutrients. So she's going to be talking about all aspects of how to support your body, how to support your immune system, how to kill viruses, viral replication, all the comorbidities that everyone's so concerned about. She's going to do a deep dive into all of these topics. So you guys are in for a real treat today. So for those of you that have not heard parts 1 through 10, I'm going to show you really quickly where you can find those parts. Before I do that, though, I want to make sure everybody can see me and hear me clearly. So you should be able to see me on the lower right side, and you should be able to hear me clearly. So just want to make sure everybody can see and hear me. So if you go to the chat box there on the right side, you can just chime in there. And just let me know that that you guys can all see me and hear me. While you're doing that, I'm going to take you over to our blog. I'm going to show you exactly where you can find parts 1 through 10. So I'm going to share my screen with you and take you over there. Okay, it looks like you guys can hear me. Okay, great. So we're on the website, our main homepage, mylivinghealth.com. So if you go to resources, and then if you go down to under resources, click blog, and then you're going to see parts 1 through 10. You're going to have access to all the replays here. So if you missed one, that is where you're going to be able to find it. Dr. Steph may reference some of these past webinars. So this is where you can find them. Also, under part 2, that's where we have, she'll be referencing certain supplements today. So she's doing a deep dive into all the nutrients. So so we have some support bundles. You're going to have the links here, and then also she's may reference some of the recommendations, which I'll share that later as we get into this webinar. But you can also find them here if you can't download them. But if you click on these links, that'll give you the recommendations from the webinar, exactly the dosing and everything you need to know there. So let's go back and, okay, good. All right, so let's make sure. All right, so it looks like Jenny's with us, Cherie is with us, Claudine, Andy, Arlene, Arthur, welcome everyone. Looks like Brian can see and hear me. Awesome. So those of you that don't know Dr. Steph, so she is the co-owner of Living Health Integrative Medicine here in Annapolis. She's a leader in the integrative health field, sharing her knowledge with practitioners and the public. She's a renowned speaker in holistic health. It's been featured as a regular guest expert on the morning show, Great Day Washington. She's also been featured on Fox, ABC, and NBC. She's a co-author of 2 best-selling books, Lose the Gluten, Lose Your Gut, Ditch the Grain, Save Your Brain, and Defeat Diabetes. She has received advanced postgraduate training in functional medicine and functional endocrinology, including the Institute of Functional Medicine, certified in the treatment and reversing cognitive decline. Dr. Steph currently focuses her practice time treating and helping patients with functional medicine, helping patients with a variety of health challenges reverse their conditions with nutritional and lifestyle and supplement therapy. So help me welcome Dr. Steph.
Hey guys, happy Friday. And part 11. And I was looking back at the dates, and we've been doing this since the 3rd week of March, if you can believe that. Crazy. So today, what I wanted to do, first of all, I'll give you the disclaimer. As you know, nothing we're talking about is to be perceived as specific medical advice, and I'm not making any claims. I just cite the research. What I want to do is literally just handle the main considerations with specifically with this virus, this coronavirus, SARS-CoV-2, which causes COVID-19, which is the actual disease from the virus. And I'm going to focus solely on nutrition and nutrients and lifestyle today. We're not getting into anything other than I just wanted to update you on on a change and an update actually from the CDC, because we've been reviewing the statistics every week. And if you just go by the CDC's stats and the Worldometer stats, it's been averaging, 3 to 5% of the population getting coronavirus, SARS-2, actually dying of COVID-19. But we kept pointing out week after week that the stats that were posted on the CDC, they were bundling everything. So they were bundling all flu, influenza, pneumonia, and COVID-19 into that total. And they have since come out and made a statement this past week saying they've made a correction to their COVID-19 stats, and it looks like it's more in line with about a 0.2%, which is what we have literally been saying since almost the beginning, when we looked at the real hard numbers. So that's my only update as far as that. We're not going to get into any other nitty gritty. If you want to go back and rewatch some of the webinars as far as things we've talked about in the past, we're going to keep this really focused on the positive and the things that we can do to control our own health. And quite honestly, everything I'm teaching you today is just pretty much standard operating procedure for how to stay healthy against any virus or most pathogens, and really just handling most chronic diseases in a general way. Obviously, I work with people very individually, and we come up with customized programs for people once we really, really delve in to personalized medicine. But these are some general things that everybody should be knowledgeable about ongoing into the future. Once this COVID-19 thing is a thing of the past, if it does become a thing of the past, there will be other things that come out, and we will be ready. We will be in a position to not be as fearful as we were when this first came out. So the main considerations I decided in the past webinars, especially the first few webinars we did, I went supplement by supplement and showed a lot of data and research. I'm not going to retread through that. So if you want to look at references and research, go back into the past webinars. Or quite honestly, it's very simple to just simply go to pubmed.gov. That's pub.gov. Or clinicaltrials.gov to look at any upcoming research that's pending, and simply type in the nutrient that you're interested in and the disease. And sometimes you got to do it several different ways, either COVID-19 or coronavirus or SARS-2. But try it several different ways and you'll sort of see what's out there. Abstracts are the summary to the research. They're generally fairly easy to read without having to get bogged down into the meat. I will go into the meat sometimes when I need more clarification on something. But generally speaking, you can do that anytime for any reason, and that is how you can keep yourself educated. And of course, if you do that and you get into some confusion, you can always email us and we'll do a little webinar or something on it and try to get things straightened out. But essentially, the 6 things that we want to talk about today, and I'm going to, instead of talking about the supplements and what each supplement does, I'm going to talk about these categories. And within these categories, what are the list of nutrients that have been found in the research to be helpful at addressing and handling these? And I want you to really pay attention to the duplicates. And you'll appreciate as we go through this why our coronavirus support bundles have been created the way they have been, and then a few things that you could add on either diet-wise or supplement-wise if you feel like it. So obviously we want to support a healthy immune system all the time, because at any point in time we're being exposed to something. It's not just coronavirus, it's not just COVID-19, that particular virus, or SARS-2. Coronaviruses are responsible for many forms of flu. There are many coronaviruses out there. There's lots of other viruses. There's herpes virus and hepatitis, and there's many, many different viruses that we're being exposed to. And we want to be healthy at all times as much as we can. And we live, quite frankly, in a very toxic world. We're exposed to a lot of toxins, and we have a lot of imbalances and dysregulations to our immune system, such that if you do get bombarded with some type of novel virus, depending on how your immune system is functioning, you may or may not have an easy time fending it off or fighting it off. And so this thing called the cytokine storm, which is this hyper-inflammatory reaction, I want to get into that a little bit and then talk about the nutrients that actually can help prevent that type of a reaction as much as possible. Of course, sometimes people are having that reaction and they're in the hospital setting, and more doctors in the ER are responding to the cytokine storm with even some of the nutrients that we're talking about as a preventative. So that's a good thing. We want to talk about things that actually kill viruses directly. There's certain herbs and minerals and nutrients that actually have a direct impact on literally contact killing the virus. We want to talk about nutrients that help prevent the virus from actually attaching or docking onto your cells and attaching in the first place, right? So we're trying to close the door, if you will, prevent the key from getting in the lock so that they can't get into the cell in the first place. Because remember, they do not do any damage to you until they get into your cell. They're not really living things. They're just particles of genetic material that once they enter the cell, they actually hijack your cell. They take over your cell like a terrorist, and they take over your DNA replicating machinery, if you will, and they slip in and just make their own copies. And that's what they end up doing, which causes a whole bunch of problems. And so we want to try to prevent that from happening in the first place. And then there's nutrients that help with preventing viral replication. So if you are taking certain nutrients prophylactically that can help kill viruses prophylactically, that can help prevent viruses from attaching to your cells and getting into the cell prophylactically, and then also could stop and prevent viral replication, then hopefully we are all one of the 99 point whatever percent of people that if we got this virus, we would simply get by with no or little symptoms and move on, and our system would be able to block it and handle it and actually prevent us from actually being contagious to other people in regards to that. Because what studies have found is that asymptomatic people that are positive are very low likely to be spreading the virus. It's once you become overrun and highly symptomatic and you're shedding because the virus is now in your cells and replicating by the bazillions, that's when that person is actually contagious. So an asymptomatic carrier is likely not contagious, or definitely not as contagious. We want to talk about clot prevention because we know that this is not truly a lung disease per se. It's actually a hijacker of our red blood cells and our hemoglobin and our oxygenating system. And a lot of research has come out, post-autopsy research, especially in Italy, actually showing massive amounts of clotting. And so literally the blood is just clotting and congealing, and that ultimately is what is leading to that person's demise related to COVID-19. So we want to talk about, clot prevention, because there are the comorbidities, which we're going to talk about in number 6. The comorbidities like diabetes, hypertension, cardiovascular disease, these are already clotting diseases. And if you are already in a clotting situation, that is partly what puts you at a higher risk for a bad COVID-19 outcome, because you're going to be more likely to clot more. So if you already have immune dysregulation, you're more likely to have a cytokine storm or some type of overreaction, not be able to kill the virus, and then, of course, be more likely to clot. So whatever we can do to support ourselves now, and just thinking with this ongoing, as far as nutrition support and lifestyle support, then this will help us immensely, even beyond, like I said, COVID-19. So let's talk about what a cytokine storm is. A virus will hijack a cell, and in a flu situation, like not a COVID situation, but in a normal flu influenza type situation, the virus will go into the cell and it will do one of two things. It'll actually prevent you from creating something called interferon. which is a call to arm. That's actually a gene that interferes with the virus's ability to multiply. So it prevents you, kind of locks that down. It hijacks your ability to make interferon. So you lose the ability to block viral replication and communicate to other cells to also either kill themselves if they're infected, or to block viral replication, or to not allow a virus out. So interferon is a big communicator outside the cell, but it also blocks viral replication within that cell. So an influenza virus will usually stimulate the release of that in a cell, so that your cell, once the cell realizes it's been hijacked, it will try to release interferon. In this particular case, COVID-19 blocks that. So where normally you would create a lot of interferon and be able to stop a virus from replicating within you and spreading that message out to the other cells, what is unusual about COVID-19 is it actually blocks your ability to do that. But the second thing that a virus does is it actually creates a release of something called a chemokine, or many chemokines. These are chemicals that get secreted out into the system outside of the cell to actually alert immune cells and alert the system to bring in immune cell reinforcements to where the infection is, so that you've got killer cells, you've got gobblers, you've got things that'll help clean up the debris and whatnot. And so in an influenza situation, in a normal flu virus situation, you would output a bunch of interferon, which would slow the replication of the virus and stop it, and work to kind of prevent it in the other cells around it. So that would keep the viral load down. And you would send out the messengers to actually bring in the immune cell recruits, that's your troops, to actually help kill and handle the infection at the wherever that infection is happening. And so in a COVID-19 situation, your interferon actually gets blocked. So for this virus has somehow been manipulated to literally insert itself and change your DNA expression to block your own interferon. So what happens is it just multiplies like gangbusters, with no checks and balances, and there's no stopping it. But it also allows for these chemokines to go out. That still happens. So you get this hyper replication, and then you also still get this huge amount of influx of white blood cells. But the more viral replication that's actually happening, the more of a crazy reaction you're going to get. And this is ultimately what causes the cytokine storm. So the coronavirus blocks interferons and allows the virus to replicate, but the chemokines still go out. And so you still get a ton of immune cells happening, and it just turns into like a virus, like pandemonium. So the overproduction of the immune cells leads to overinflammation and causes dangerous cytokine storms. And cytokines are these chemicals that are released as part of the attempt to kill cells, to kill virus, to do all that stuff. And what happens is you end up damaging a lot of tissues as a byproduct. It's sort of like, instead of sniper shooting a city, you just completely bomb everything, all the innocents, all the innocent bystanders, all the tissues, the infrastructure gets completely destroyed. And this is where we end up in trouble as far as this goes. So chemokines, this is just kind of pointing to, in this particular case, because chemokines are secreted by cells of all kinds for different reasons. But in the case of a viral situation, they're secreted to actually recruit, like I said, immune cells to that area. Th1, Th2. So this is the balance of the immune system, where the baby immune cells get triggered to actually become specialized immune cells that have specific jobs, whether it's creating antibodies or shooting out other types of chemicals or whatever the situation might be, and then generally causing what is known as an inflammatory inflammation type of situation. And inflammation to some degree is okay, but if you have too much of it, it is very, very destructive. And it can overwhelm the system, and you accidentally almost attack yourself. And so that's what we're trying to prevent, both prophylactically, but obviously in the ER situation, they're really trying to figure out how to stop this cytokine storm if it actually takes effect. So our job before we get to that situation, before we ever get this virus, is to actually work to get ourselves healthy enough that we wouldn't have a cytokine storm in the first place. And we want to calm and balance the differentiation of a baby, of stem cell, an immune cell that doesn't have an actual utility yet. With these chemokines that come out, we want to make sure that you actually have balanced immune reaction, right? So there's different, if you look at the little diagram here, we've got Th0 cell on the far left there, and that is T stands for thymus gland. So we have two different cell lineages, if you will, that become immune cells. Some come from the bone marrow and they're called B cells. And then some come from the thymus gland, which is a gland right in your chest area. And that is, the thymus gland is where T cells come. That's where that letter comes from as far as why we call them T cells. And then H represents helper. So T helper cells are various types of specialized immune cells that are pretty much going to go off into the world and sacrifice themselves in your body somewhere to help in some type of defensive protective mechanism. They usually get called up if there's a pile of inflammation somewhere or chemicals that are alerting the system that we need a bunch of troops of this kind sent over to this area. And that's in response to those chemokines. So Th0 is T helper cell 0. That is like ground zero. And it's macrophages and dendrites, certain types of immune cells that have now been tripped off by an invader, bacteria, pathogen, virus, that will actually stimulate these cells to then become either a Th1 or a T helper cell 1, primarily, which will deal with acute viral infections or intracellular things that actually go into a cell, like a virus, sometimes bacteria or yeast. You'll have Th17 cells, which are very destructive. These are the ones that we don't want to have in super, super high amounts ongoing. And then you have Th2 cells. These will get called up mostly if there's extracellular parasites like bacteria or actual parasites, even worms, parasites. And then you have something called a T-REG cell or a regulatory cell. And these guys, literally, you want a plentiful amount of these to kind of calm down and balance out the other ones. So these are very much anti-inflammatory immunomodulatory cells. We get into trouble when this gets all haywire. And if we're haywire because of chronic stuff going on with us before we get a virus, then things are going to be extremely, extremely hyper reactive in the wrong way, which can lead to that cytokine storm. So this is just another diagram where you see up at the top a naive cell or a baby, I call them a baby immune cell, a T helper cell 0. It gets triggered by the chemicals that are secreted because of notification that something has happened. So we're talking about a virus right now. And so then that will actually, and this all happens in the thymus gland, it will stimulate the manufacturing of Th1, Th2, Th17, or T-regs. And it just kind of, this chart is nice because it tells you underneath each of those cells what their general objective and job is, right? So Th1, this is the intracellular, right? So it responds to and goes after viruses and bacteria that have hijacked internally a cell, causes a lot of inflammation, actually is what's behind autoimmunity. So many of you guys know that I work with a lot of autoimmune patients. Sometimes people have multiple autoimmune disease. They're always in attack mode against themselves. And very often they're what we call Th1 dominant. So many autoimmune patients have higher amounts already of Th1. And so if this person actually gets hit with some type of virus, they may even react even more, which can cause a lot of issues with this COVID-19. Th2 cells, on the other hand, they can still cause inflammation, but they're more dealing with outside of the cell, things that are floating around that can cause trouble, like we said, parasites that are extracellular. And people that have abnormally high amounts of Th2, generally those are the people that have more like asthma and allergy type situations. And then there's just some people that have been so chronically sick for so long or are so toxic or nutrient deficient that both of these are down. And so if you ever had blood work done and you looked at your complete metabolic panel and a CBC with differentiation, so a CBC is actually going to show you your white and red blood cell counts. If the total white blood cell count is below 5, generally there's some type of chronic situation that is starting to lower your white blood cell count total. And then we look at some of the different breakdowns to figure out, well, does it look more viral? Does it look more, parasite related, more bacterial or yeast? We try to look for patterns with your white blood cells. But if the total is low and the ratios are off, then you actually might have just a very low immunity and would actually benefit from stimulating even both of these. And so this is where I kind of got into, you have to be careful with some immune nutrients depending on your general medical situation or your general health. As far as this virus is concerned, you want to be really supporting your immune system to how you're doing now. So if you tend towards, more allergies and asthma type situation, then that might be a little bit more of a different supplementation. So what I talk about today is going to be a lot of really good general stuff that's actually good to balance it all out. Th17, almost every autoimmune disease is way, way, way too high in Th17. Almost every single one I've researched. And we spend a lot of time working to balance that out by increasing the T regulatory cells, which quell and calm a lot of this. So when you think of calming the storm, you think of increasing the T-REG cells. So I'm going to give you guys a lot of nutrients suggestions or recommendations today about how you would actually amplify your T-REGs, because that will help keep any storm from brewing just chronically or in an acute situation. It's really a good, when you think about T regulatory, they're really trying to regulate the whole situation. Okay, so that is just sort of an overview of the cells that are involved in the cytokine storm as far as quelling it. This is just another picture where you see Th1 and Th2 and Th17. If these guys get too bonkers in this situation, then what you really want to have is more of these T-regs to kind of calm the storm, okay? All right, the cytokine storm. So if you get too much immune activity, like we said, it just bombards the whole system. It leads to clotting. It causes shock, especially septic shock. It causes lung injury. So if you have a massive cytokine storm in the lung area, and we know that SARS targets, this COVID-19 targets lung tissue. We know that it pretty much targets your whole blood system. And so anywhere where there's small blood vessels like kidneys, brain, the gut, and lungs will get affected. We've even seen reports of people where their toes turn blue and their fingers turn blue and they blistered. That's because of the low oxygen and probably some minor clotting in those areas. And so they had weeks and weeks of healing and sloughing off of dead skin from the toes after they had their acute COVID situation. So all of that eventually weakens the immune system, just wipes it right out. So you go through this big storm and then crash, and now you have no immunity left. And then you become very susceptible to bacterial pneumonia. Your barriers become very permeable, including the lung barrier, which again makes you susceptible to this bacterial pneumonia. And some people are actually dying because of the bacterial pneumonia. Some people are dying because of clotting. For some people, it's just a super hypoxic situation. And then, of course, there's the problem of renal failure. So they look at renal markers through all this as well when they're monitoring patients. And then, of course, if you're just so out of whack, it just doesn't end well. It just becomes like you literally just bomb yourself to death trying to get over this. Okay, so we want to do things proactively that would help us actually increase our natural interferon, which, by the way, is helpful for preventing cancer. So all of the things we're going to talk about today about balancing your immune system are pretty much key to quelling most inflammation, and most disease, chronic illnesses are inflammatory in nature, right? So we want to increase cell interferon production and the cell use of interferon. And so these are some primary nutrients that help with that. Zinc, you'll hear a lot of, we've talked a lot about zinc. And zinc actually is important with regards to interferon production. Vitamin D. Vitamin D is pretty much needed across all aspects of the immune system. Cell differentiation, how cells react, what white blood cells are doing, within the cell, what's happening. So your production of interferon, you need vitamin D. And we have already gone over this, the fact that large-scale studies show that almost 100% of people that died with COVID-19 were deficient in vitamin D. And you've got to have vitamin D to actually keep a well-balanced, normally functioning immune system. We also know that some cancers are actually attributed to vitamin D deficiency. And so again, as far as these inflammatory conditions, we want to make sure that we're keeping ample amounts of vitamin D. So the blood levels of vitamin D that we target for are anywhere between 60 and 80. Sometimes I'll push them actually up higher than that, depending on the person I'm working with. But that's a pretty safe target for most people. You really have to be asking to have your blood levels of D regularly checked, minimally annually, especially if you're going to be, dosing yourself up if you haven't been on it before. My minimum dosing for people, as far as generally kind of getting to those levels and then maintaining them, is actually anywhere from 4,000 international units a day all the way up to 10 to 12,000 international units a day. That's something, again, you have to just monitor. If you're a super absorber, then you won't need as much. And some people actually need more, believe it or not. I've got some people on very high amounts just to maintain normal levels of D. The best way to get vitamin D is running around naked in the sun with no sunblock on. And so this whole no tanning at the beach thing or no laying on the beach is ridiculous. So get out into your backyards, go to the park in a tank top and shorts, and get out for a good hour or so. You don't want to burn, but you definitely, that's the best way. Depending on the darkness of your skin, the darker that you are, the more melanin you have in your skin, the more protection you have actually prohibiting you from making ample amounts of vitamin D. So if you're fair skinned, you'd only need to be in the sun for about 15-30 minutes to make about 10 to 30,000 IUs of your own vitamin D, believe it or not. But the darker your skin is, it may actually require an hour or more. It's just, we can't do that every single day for the year. We're in Maryland. We have, it's just finally starting to get warm out this weekend. And so that's impossible. And so this is also why, as fall approaches into the December months, people succumb to the flu because they start to become deficient in vitamin D if they're not supplementing with it to make up for the lack of sun that they're experiencing pretty much from September to December. This is why every year influenza spikes at that point, pneumonia spikes at that point. You can just bank on it. Between the months of November to January, February, we have these peaked curves of issues with these types of respiratory and infectious ailments. And part of it is because of vitamin D deficiency. Vitamin C is very important for interferon production. Fish oil, so omega-3 fatty acids, very important for our production of interferon. Licorice, I just advise that this is not something that I routinely prescribe unless it's deglycerized, because it's in one of our supplements for the intestines. Deglycerized licorice is very good for the gut, but licorice itself can actually increase blood pressure and put pressure on the kidneys. So it's if you've got comorbidities and you've got hypertension and diabetes, I don't recommend you going crazy with licorice. You're much better off doing things like vitamin D, zinc, and fish oil. As far as dosing of fish oil, our omega-3 mg is monoglyceride. So it's actually 3 times more absorbable than almost every fish oil out there. One capsule is about 3 times the absorbed amount as most other fish oils, which are usually triglyceride. So if you're looking at dosing with our omega-3 mg, it's long term. It's fine to take 1 capsule twice a day. We will therapeutically dose people that are trying to reverse a chronic issue or really get deflamed. We will dose people temporarily 2 capsules twice a day. As far as that goes. But you're looking at anywhere from 2,000 to 3,000 milligrams of omega-3 fatty acids as far as dosing. Vitamin C for a good, just general, 500 to 2,000 milligrams per day is a general good, minimally 500 milligrams per day. You can always high dose it, either through an IV or through our supplements. The challenge with high dosing oral vitamin C is if you take a pill vitamin C, too much will cause diarrhea. It becomes very hard to get an actual really good high amount, which can sometimes be very therapeutic. Like at the onset of symptoms, you want to ramp up vitamin C, but it's just hard for the bowels to tolerate. So the form that we use is actually the liposomal pump, because most of it will absorb in through the mouth. And not only that, but once it gets into the bloodstream, because it's liposomal, it matches and is very easily attracted to cell membranes and getting into the cell. And that's what you actually want in order to make interferon and help with this viral protection method. So IV vitamin C or the oral pump, you can super mega dose. That's our C-Plex. But watch it with some of the capsules or the powders that are just pure C, because you'll get diarrhea. So if you're constipated, that's good, but you don't want to get caught off guard. Zinc, anywhere from 35 to 50 milligrams a day is really all that's needed for long term. Any more than that, and you can actually get a buildup of it. A sign of zinc toxicity or getting too much is actually nausea or vomiting. So that could be a sign that you're getting too much zinc. You don't want to overdo it, but if you do get symptoms, then you can hyperdose it temporarily for a few days. And this is what's working in conjunction with the hydroxychloroquine. The hydroxychloroquine, remember, is the Plaquenil. It actually helps facilitate zinc getting pulled into the cell. And one of the things that zinc does once it's in the cell is actually increases interferon, which blocks the virus, remember. Medicinal mushrooms, I've been asked about that. And we do have the biocidin pump and the throat spray that actually has medicinal mushrooms in it. But reishi, maitake, shiitake, and kombucha. So drinking kombucha can be very therapeutic. Probiotics are also known to help support immune function. You just want to look for a brand of kombucha that doesn't have a ton of sugar in it. But there's some really good stuff there on the market. And they've got some great flavors of kombucha. So you can have some kombucha as well. And that would actually help with supporting your production of interferon, which would help with helping to prevent viruses from replicating. And then ginseng. Ginseng, a lot of people know about ginseng just generally for inflammation and support and brain function, but ginseng's another one that helps with interferon production. So these are all things that can just be taken pretty routinely. You know, our bundles got the zinc, the D, the C. If you added a little fish oil to it, you know, you'd pretty much be good to go. And then if you had the support bundle plus that we have, it's got the biocidin that has the mushrooms in it. So you've got that as well. So the other big factor in preventing a cytokine storm reaction or any hyperreaction is to really try to decrease Th17, generally speaking. Again, this is the one that's high in most of our autoimmune patients, hyperinflammatory situation. And then balance the Th1 and Th2. So those are the T helper cell 1 and T helper cell 2. We want those to be balanced, and we want them to be high enough, but not too much, right? So the nutrients that help with all of these is there's a combo supplement that we have called Nitramals, and it has huperzine, ATP, which is the actual molecule of cell energy, xanthanol nicotate. So remember, nicotine actually can help with dampening some of these inflammatory cascades. N-acetyl L-carnitine. So I know that some of you have heard of L-carnitine before. Alpha GPC and vinpocetine. Those together, all together, actually help dampen Th17. And what those do actually in combination is they help shunt nitric oxide is away from becoming and promoting Th17 and a lot of tissue inflammation. And it actually shunts nitric oxide down pathways that support oxygenating brain and oxygenating blood vessels, keeping the blood vessels nice and loosey-goosey to help support lowering blood pressure. So not only are you dampening the Th17 and hyperinflammation, you're actually supporting healthy, pliable blood vessels. And remember, hypertension is one of the #1 comorbidities of COVID-19, and you're supporting brain function. Other herbs and nutrients that help with balancing this whole immune situation is artemisinin. Artemisinin actually helps dampen Th1 and support Th2. This is why Plaquenil is commonly prescribed to multi-system autoimmune patients, lupus, rheumatoid arthritis patients, because it dampens Th1, which then brings it more into balance with Th2. That's okay as long as everything doesn't get super suppressed, right? So this is just something that gets monitored. But artemisinin is the extract from Artemisia, and Artemisia is the sweet wormwood where they actually synthetically make chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine. So that's a Th2 stimulator and can help dampen that Th1. Resveratrol and curcumin are very important supporters of lowering Th17 and balancing Th2 and Th1. Very, very neutral. You could be swaying either which way. It will actually help almost adaptogenically balance things out. And then we have berberine and boswellia. Those are good natural calmers of the immune system. We have arlopoic acid. That's actually in our C-Plex. So the C-pump that's in our coronavirus bundle has some arlopoic acid in it, which is helpful again at supporting lowered inflammation. Black cumin seed oil, which can be taken as a capsule or actually as an actual oil you can buy. You put it into your shakes or salad dressings. GABA and melatonin are also very important at dampening. And we've talked about those in our sleep bundles and our stress calming bundles. But I think, I can't remember now which webinar it was. We really delved into melatonin and all the cool things that melatonin does as far as supporting the immune system and helping with virus control. Zinc, selenium, and chromium, okay? We know those are zinc and selenium are pretty much needed throughout all of the immune cascade. So you'll see these pop up, vitamin A, D, and C. Skullcap, so someone asked about skullcap. Skullcap is another one that actually helps lower Th17, but most importantly helps balance the Th1, Th2 paradigm. And CBD or cannabidiol. So cannabidiol is the anti-inflammatory components from hemp. It is not the THC. That's not to say THC doesn't have any medicinal benefit to the immune system, but there's some good literature that actually shows that CBD is very good at dampening the Th17 and then, of course, supporting Th1, Th2 balancing. So that can actually be helpful. We actually do have CBD supplements here, also in a liposomal form for people. And it can even be rubbed on topically. It's a great anti-inflammatory for joints and things like that also. Diet-wise, the things that help with balancing Th1 and 2 and lowering Th17. So we're thinking about preventing ever having a cytokine storm is ginger, turmeric, and fish oil. So fish oil would be, I guess, a supplement, but you also want to think with omega-3 fatty acids like salmon and good sources of fish that are high in omega-3 fatty acid, cooking with ginger, putting turmeric in your shakes in addition to possibly taking it as a supplement. And there's a component in green tea and chocolate. Yes. All I can say is thank God for chocolate. It's a good stress food. Green tea and chocolate called EGCG, and this is actually a very important anti-inflammatory. There's also something called sulforaphane, which is in broccoli, broccoli seeds, broccoli sprouts, and most cruciferous vegetables, which actually helps with this, preventing a hyper-inflammatory situation. So, we encourage our patients to eat a lot of vegetables, but broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, things like that, those cruciferous vegetables, but in particular, broccoli and broccoli sprouts. I don't know why I mentioned turmeric twice. It must be super important. Obviously, eating gluten-free has specifically been found to help lower Th17 and balance the Th1, Th2. So we talk about eating gluten-free all the time and following the plate rule. So if you literally follow that, that is designed to quell inflammatory storms. So this is why we've been really encouraging you guys to stay on plan if possible. And then we've got some fun things coming up that'll help us get on plan if we've been totally thrown off with all this crazy. And then lifestyle things. So there's actually things that don't cost anything that you can go out and do for the most part to help calm the immune system, support it, keep it humming along so that if you have a virus, okay, no problem, you handle it, no big deal, no overreaction, right? So exercise, obviously we don't want people like, marathon running. And if that's not something you've ever done before, don't just try to push yourself too hard, but moderate amounts of exercise are important. Sunlight. We've talked about sunlight. Getting exposed to ultraviolet light helps you produce vitamin D. It helps you makes you happy. Sleeping on rhythm. So it's very easy to get thrown off rhythm when you're on this funky work schedule or working from home or not working. So sleeping on rhythm is important. So the recommendation we have obviously is trying to get yourself to bed between 10 and midnight, and then up between 6 and 8 o'clock. That is the ideal clock for whatever time zone that you live in. Ozone is actually very good at, and I kind of talk about ozone like a lifestyle thing or a supplement thing, because really we sort of use oxygen and ozone as a supplement with the IVs. But if you're drinking ozone water, that's helpful as well. We've talked a lot about ozone. I'm not going to get into all the specifics of that. You can go back into the webinars, previous webinars, to learn about really what I'm talking about. But so much research is coming out on ozone. So many other countries, Brazil, Italy, Belarus, there's so many places, Spain, that are actually starting to post research and actual studies. There's case studies. Doctors are getting it done in the hospital settings. Whether that'll ever be a thing here in an emergency room situation, I don't know. But as long as we have access for it for us to help prevent, it can help actually quell and rebalance an imbalanced immune system, which is why we use this for all of our autoimmune patients, or recommend it for our autoimmune patients, because it can be that final piece of regulating the system to just stop being in attack mode all the time. If you have other infections, chronic viral stuff, then you definitely want to take action against those, because if you're always amped up chasing viruses, chronic viruses or chronic parasites, that keeps your immune system always charged up, or it depletes it too far. So you can get a little bit knocked around. Trying to do things to reduce your stress, whether it's yoga or Tai Chi or just relaxing or going for a walk or whatever. I heard that, big drive-through movie theaters are opening up now, which is kind of old school. That's kind of fun. So just doing things like that to just decompress. Shutting off the news, especially after dinner. Just cut it off. Just too much. Blocking EMF, we've talked about that. EMF is very destructive to the immune system. And then handling heavy metals. So toxic metals like cadmium, mercury, lead. We've got patients that are currently doing chelation protocols because heavy metals are very, very dangerous to the immune system. So that's a lot of stuff that you could do to actually take really good care of your immune system and prevent anything like a COVID-19 situation. Let's talk about increasing the T-REG cells, because if we can increase the regulatory cells, then we can really calm everything down and keep things actually regulated properly, just like the reg cells say. So the nutrients, you're going to see some commonalities here. The nutrients that help with T-REG cells, vitamin D, A, C, B12, glutathione. Remember, we've talked about glutathione, alpha lipoic acid, and acetylcysteine. These are all things that are very helpful. We have the glutathione in the liposomal form, and we also have it in a capsule form. I actually think the liposomal form is really the best, because These are nutrients that bypass the digestive system. They don't get broken down by stomach acid. They go immediately into the bloodstream. And because they're liposomal, they can get right into the cell and do their job. Resveratrol, we see that again. Quercetin, right? So in our Resvero Synergy, in our coronavirus bundle, Ultra or Plus or whatever we called it, Resvero Synergy actually has quercetin and resveratrol together. Garlic, right? Don't necessarily need to supplement with garlic. It's in our biocidin supplement, but cook with it, use it, eat it, crush it into salad dressing. We use garlic a lot. I don't think I smell like garlic. Nobody's ever complained about it, but we use a lot. Ashwagandha, that's a great supplement just in general to just balance out the system, but it's a good T-REG supporter. Magnesium, selenium, medicinal mushrooms again. So there you go. And then things like clove and peppermint, right? So these are good T-REG cell supporters. Once we go to diet, we see, gluten-free diet again is found to actually help with gluten specifically has found in research to lower T-REGs. You don't want to lower T-REGs. You want to have those suckers up nice and high. A diet high in omega-3 and lower in omega-6 will help with getting your T-REGs up. Lots of veggies and fruits. And of course, if you just follow my plate rule, this will all be balanced. And Manuka honey has actually been found to help with increasing T-REG cells. So Manuka honey is from New Zealand. It actually has antimicrobial and immune boosting properties. And this is an interesting honey. It's not inexpensive. If you go to Whole Foods and buy a bottle of it, it could cost you $20, $30 for a small jar. But man, is it medicinal. As far as wound care or taking it orally, if you're trying to prevent an infection or if you have an infection. And the higher the score on the bottle of honey, that's its concentration of antimicrobial properties. There's some type of nutrient in there that is antimicrobial. And so the higher that concentration is, the more medicinal it is. If you go to drmanuka.com, you can buy all the way up to 525, which is a super high score. You'll find 16 and 20 at Whole Foods. And sometimes they'll have super sales, 60% off. And you can buy a jar of that for the same price as you'd buy the 20 plus at Whole Foods, which is really great. That's a good time to stock up and stuff like that. It doesn't need to be refrigerated. It kind of never goes bad because it's literally an antimicrobial product. And it's used a lot in medicinal wound dressing for hospitals for wound care. That's how biocidic it is. And so Manuka honey actually helps support increasing your T-REGs. And then lifestyle stuff, you want to increase your own opioid production. This is actually what helps with T-REG stimulation. So happy things, right? Things that kind of make you feel good, laughter, daily expression of gratitude, healthy touch, feeling up. This is why I think this has been so horrible for so many people's immune system, this lockdown, is because we've been feeling like we can't touch people, shake hands, make contact, hug people. I've got patients who, had to go weeks and weeks and weeks without hugging their grandchildren. It's heartbreaking. And just having that contact is actually stimulating to increasing your T-REGs. It's immune boosting and balancing to have physical human contact, which is one of the downfalls of this lockdown. It's been very hard for me because we're kind of huggy with our patients, and it's I can't, it's just weird. But being playful, having a good time, socializing where you can. The cool thing in our neighborhood is we've seen neighbors kind of creating these big lawn chair circles on their driveway where they're all maintaining their 6-foot distance, but they get to actually be social. So that's fun. All of those things that kind of create that natural high are good for T-REGs. So that's a good thing that you can do. Watching a comedy, having a date night, things like that are really, really good for that. So if you look at all the nutrients we just talked about, you can see why we put the coronavirus protection bundles together the way we did, right? So the Ultra bundle has resveratrol, it has quercetin in the resverasynergy. Biocidin has garlic, it has medicinal mushrooms, it has a whole ton of stuff in there, noni and all kinds of good stuff. It's got the glutathione in the bundle. You've got the C-plex with the R-lipoic acid. You've got your vitamin D, which you need for everything. You've got your zinc. And then in that bundle, we actually have silver also, which comes in later. If you need to get a good mineral and multi-complement, the active multi, we now have not just in capsule form, but in powder form. And that's actually my preferred way of getting my multi now, because I just fill up my huge bucket of water and I put my scoop of multi in there and it tastes really good. And I'm getting all my selenium, my chromium, and some other really good nutrients in addition to everything like vitamin A, all the other things that we talked about. And then berberine, we just spoke about berberine. You're going to see berberine come up later. We have a supplement called Alaberb, which is alpha lipoic acid and berberine together. That's got multiple uses and functions you'll see. And then, of course, if you needed to, you could add curcumin, which is the turmeric extract. My dosing for that is 500 milligrams 3 times a day. I use it a lot with my autoimmune patients. We use it a lot with our allergy patients. We use it a lot with kind of like everybody, my brain patients. So the ideal dosing for that is about 1,500 milligrams per day. And then, of course, the omega-3 mg, that's the fish oil, right? So 1 capsule twice a day of that would be great. But if all you could do was the bundle and a good multi, you'd be good to go for the most part. And then, of course, balancing out the other lifestyle and diet things. All right, now let's talk about what actually is in our arsenal to directly kill viruses. And again, I'm not going to go through and post the research because it was just going to be, we'd be here all weekend. And I've cited a lot of the research in the past webinars. And of course, you can directly look these up yourselves just by going to PubMed and keying some of these things in. Monolaurin, that's in our bundle, right? That's the extract from coconut oil. It directly dissolves the fatty lipid membrane. So if you look at that little schematic up on your page, there's the lipid membrane. So that's a fatty encoding around the RNA material. So the genetic material that makes up the virus is coated in a fatty coating. And then, of course, there's the spikes. The spikes are basically the things that the virus uses to dock or attach itself to a cell. So the lipid membrane gets completely annihilated and dissolved like soap with monolaurin. So as long as lauric acid, which is in the monolaurin, is circulating in the bloodstream, if viruses get in through the nasal passage or the throat and they get into the bloodstream, if you have a daily dose of monolaurin, then you will be able to kill viruses before they start to actually attach and dock, right? So if they're just free form circulating in the system, you'll just be like mopping them up with soap, basically. Vitamin C has also been shown to directly bind to the virus and destroy it by oxidizing it. So again, it's a way of destroying that fatty membrane. It oxidizes it, falls apart, and then once the virus particle, the genetic material, can't be protected by that membrane, it's useless because it has no way to get into anywhere, and it's just dead particle. So it just gets cleaned up like garbage. So vitamin C, there we go again, right, with dosing the vitamin C. Ozone, again, if you do ozone to the blood or you drink ozone or you take it rectally, we've talked a million times about this. Ozone directly actually oxidizes again the membrane. So it actually eats the envelope. It cleaves the genomic material. So if it gets into the envelope and you've got the genetic material just kind of floating around, it actually it just burns it up like a lightsaber. And then virus particles actually help create antibodies, right? So if the ozone is able to pierce through the virus capsule and the genetic material comes out and it can actually chop it all up, then you actually can develop antibodies. So I put a little ruh-roh. It's like a natural vaccine, getting ozone on a regular basis. So we've helped people get set up with home ozone. We have ozone here that people come in and do monthly or bi-weekly, just again as a prophylactic to essentially kill any viruses that are going through the system, but it also helps with balancing the immune system as well. Silver, I don't care what the FDA says, silver interacts with the genetic material. And so it basically disables the virus. Ultraviolet destroys the nucleic material. So again, that's the genetic material. Oregano damages the capsule directly as well as the nucleic material. So there's another twofer with the oregano. That's also in our biocidin. Garlic burns through the viral membrane. So we have a lot at our disposal to basically burn through this stupid virus. Artemisinin and berberine. Again, those are two very potent herbs that are antiparasitic and antiviral, and they directly kill as well. So you've now seen those herbs pop up multiple times, right? We've got things that have multiple functions that can keep us healthy. There's literally no reason why, if we're doing just some of these things, we can't fend ourselves off to most things. So the coronavirus protection bundle, again, actually has the silver in it. You've got the alpha lipoic acid with the berberine again, your biocidin, your artemisinin. That's in the antiviral bundle. So now you can see why we put those things in there. You do not want to high dose herbs like artemisinin. And you don't necessarily want to high dose things like berberine either. But you can take it. Our capsules are 200 milligrams, and doing that once a day or every other day is perfectly fine. At the onset of symptoms, we've given you guys some instructions, so Dr. Tom can post the links so that you can download those. We've had those up in our past webinars about how I recommend dosing at the onset of symptoms, and for how long to dose for, as far as that goes. All right, so then there's things we can do to actually prevent the docking or the locking on of the virus to our cells. So we've got things that we can do to kill the virus directly, that we can do to prevent it from attaching, because if it attaches, then it'll likely get into the cell. And so once again, green tea and dark chocolate. The Mayo Clinic says dark chocolate is like a supplement. I agree. So EGCG from green tea and dark chocolate actually help prevent viral docking. There's also another bioflavonoid that's in chocolate that actually helps with preventing docking, procyanidins. If you can, just eat a good quality organic, 85% or higher. I've got a good recipe coming up for you guys so that you can make a morning shake that will last all morning. And it's got lots of this good stuff in it so that you'll be able to prevent viral docking. Curcumin, so there we go again with the curcumin. Medicinal mushrooms, here we go again, right? In particular, it's the beta-glucans that actually help prevent with the viral docking. Quercetin, okay? So we know that quercetin is an immune support, and it helps with T-REGs. We also know that it helps with pulling zinc into the cell, so zinc can do its job, but it also helps prevent viral docking. And then citrus bioflavonoids. So sometimes you can get a vitamin C that has bioflavonoids in it. Our Bio-C actually is named Bio-C because it has bioflavonoids and vitamin C. It's a little gentler on the stomach. But if you're already taking the C-Plex, then don't even worry about this. All right, so take a picture of this. I'm probably going to get requests to post this, and so I will work on that this weekend. But this is basically my matcha cocoa shake that we make in the morning. I don't really make it anymore. I'm very, very lucky that I have a husband that's really good at making this, and so I get it made for me. So I will say that's a bit of a cheat. But so if you have a NutriBullet or a Ninja or one of those fancy Vitamix things, you want to get water to not quite boiling. So you want it to be around 90 degrees. You don't want to inactivate some of your delicious nutrients. But into that water, about 1.5 cups of hot water, you'll pour into the shake. You're going to add, this is so rich, you're going to add a tablespoon of matcha green tea powder. You want to get organic matcha powder. You can pretty much get that anywhere. There's some great places online. If you just root around and look for organic, you can buy it in bulk. I don't recommend you buying it in bulk unless you know you like it. But once you've tried it and you know you like it, you could buy like 1 pound bags of it. It'll last quite a while. 1 tablespoon of raw organic fermented cocoa powder. One of the places I get that from is wildernessfamilynaturals.com. But again, just root around online and you'll be able to find some good bulk places now. So 1 tablespoon of raw organic cocoa powder, that's part of my chocolate. And then 1 scoop of our Collagen Pro, which is our collagen protein powder. So I get a little extra chocolate. Sometimes I even sneak a little extra chocolate even after Dr. Tom makes it, but that's okay. 1 tablespoon of coconut or MCT oil. If you've never done MCT or coconut oil, just start with 1 teaspoon and start slowly. In the beginning, it can cause some stomach upset. But 1 tablespoon of the coconut oil, 1 tablespoon of ghee, which is clarified butter, or SCT oil, which is short chain triglycerides, which comes from actual clarified butter. And you just blend it all up and it turns into this delicious, creamy, frothy heaven. And that that's my breakfast. And I don't worry about the nutrients and the vitamins, because sometimes I'll do an actual, meal replacement shake that has all the vitamins in it, because I put the active multivitamin powder in my water that I sip on later in the day. So I'll nurse this from between 7 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock in the morning. And all that fat just keeps me going. People wonder why I have so much energy. It's because of the chocolate and the fat and the matcha. That's why. Okay, so... okay, let's talk about preventing viral replication. So let's say the virus got in to the bloodstream, didn't get killed by monolaurin, didn't get killed by the vitamin C and the garlic and the oregano and all the other stuff that you're throwing at yourself with throat sprays and the pumps. And the virus actually got through the checks and balances and managed to dock itself. You want to have the situation set up so that you can prevent viral replication, because that happens once it goes into the cell. It hijacks your DNA. It just slips into the printing process and just starts to replicate itself. It just takes over, and it will actually take over to the point where in most cases it will hyper multiply until it literally bursts. So the cell is dead and out spews the contents, and then you start feeling like crap. So zinc blocks viral replication. Artemisinin, not only does it block viral replication, but it helps get zinc into the cell, just like quercetin does. Berberine, here we go again. Berberine blocks viral replication. Silver blocks viral replication. You see, these are repeats, right? These are the same supplements that help support other facets of the immune system. Elderberry is very good at blocking viral replication. So I've been asked about elderberry. I think it's fine to take an elderberry syrup here and there if you feel you need to. If you're taking a bunch of stuff, you may not need it. Siberian ginseng helps block viral replication. Vitamin C, here we go again. Another one, vitamin C shows up everywhere. And I don't know why I said artemisinin twice. I guess I just got really excited about artemisinin. Anyway, so there you go, your coronavirus protection bundle. You've got your silver. Your silver you can swallow. So that obviously you're not going to get it into the cell if you don't swallow it. You can gargle with it to actually kill viruses. You can nasal spray with it or neti pot with it to clear out, because the virus gets in mostly through the nasal passage. The eyes will seep in through the nasal passage and then the throat. So if you're doing that periodically, like gargling and whatnot, then that'll help clear the throat. We talked about how researchers are saying mouthwash is a great way to prevent the virus from getting into the system. So I don't use an alcohol-based toxic mouthwash. I'll either oil pull with coconut oil, or I will gargle with the biocidin spray, just kind of let it coat my throat, or I'll use the silver. But you've got everything in that bundle to help with blocking viral replication, increasing T-REGs, killing the virus directly, and supporting the balance of the rest of the immune system. So that little bundle does a whole lot. And if that's all you can do, plus a good multivitamin, then you're good to go, pretty much, right? Especially if you're eating and following the plate rule. Okay, so we got real concerned about clotting. And a lot of people have underlying comorbidities that predispose them to clotting. That's why half of you guys are living on baby aspirin. By the way, baby aspirin is fine as far as, and it's actually even indicated as a way to prevent the clotting. But I have a lot of patients that don't want to be on baby aspirin because it can lead to ulcers and things like that. And it causes a bunch of other issues as far as stomach. So there's lots of other things that we can recommend. And of course, you're probably already on them if you're on the COVID bundle. So I just wanted you to see, again, what you have at your disposal. So the nutrients that you can take to prevent clotting: fish oil, we already know. Omega-3 is a blood thinner. In fact, when patients come to see us and they're on a prescription blood thinner, we have to be overly cautious with not prescribing our usual amounts of fish oil because you will end up with super thin blood, which begs the question, why be on a blood thinner? Why not just take super amounts of fish oil? I'm just throwing that out there. Vitamin E, which you'll get in the multivitamin. Nattokinase. So nattokinase is from fermented soy. It's an enzyme that actually helps. I prescribe it specifically with our patients that have high fibrinogen. These are high fibrinogen is a sign that you are laying down fibrotic tissue or fibrotic material, which is basically a precursor for clotting. It's also infiltrating into the tissues and causes a lot of inflammation. So nattokinase is very helpful for that. So if you're someone that has high fibrinogen, which we measure here, then we would recommend nattokinase. It's fine to take it prophylactically. But again, these are blood thinners. So if you're actually on like a warfarin or a Coumadin, I don't recommend you take all of these. You might want to actually get with one of our providers here so that we can help you dose things accordingly. Because if you overdose yourself in blood thinners, then you will bleed out. You don't want to be doing that, right? We don't want that to happen. There's an enzyme called serrapeptidase, which is in a supplement that we have that's called Artery Clear, that actually helps to scavenge out and break up protein adhesions and calcification in the arteries. So it actually helps with handling that part of the clotting. Berberine, it keeps showing up. Berberine is an herb that also helps with prevention of clotting. Curcumin is a natural blood thinner. We have to also be careful with how we dose people on that. Bromelain and vitamin K. I know that people that are on blood thinners are told don't eat lots of vegetables that have, like, just think of how ridiculous this is. You're on a blood thinner, right? Prescription, and you're not supposed to eat high amounts of fish and leafy greens. It makes no sense. Healthy amounts of healthy vitamin K actually prevent calcium from building up and hardening the arteries. So vitamin K actually helps with, even though it is a clot promoter, it is a healthy clot regulator in the fact that it promotes healthy normal clotting. Like if you have a cut or a damage to an area, you want some clotting ability, right? Otherwise you'll bleed out. But vitamin K, it helps and works with vitamin D, in that vitamin D pulls calcium from the food, from the gut, into the blood, and vitamin K takes the calcium and parks it in your bones, which is where you want it. So it's not in high circulation throughout the bloodstream, calcifying small blood vessels and large blood vessels. So that is actually helpful for people. And then ozone. Ozone has also been found unequivocally to help minimize clotting. So if you get ozone treatments on a fairly regular basis, even if it's just monthly, it will actually help with lowering inflammation, cleaning up the blood from viruses and bacteria and stuff that shouldn't be there. And it will stimulate anti-inflammatory reactions, and it will help with clot prevention. Diet: garlic, onions, and ginger. So a diet that's heavy in these foods will be naturally anti-clotting. Cooking with turmeric and using turmeric powder into things. Cayenne pepper. So cayenne pepper is a good anti-clotting food, spice that you can use. Chocolate. Yay. There's so many reasons to eat chocolate. It's just so awesome. But we're not talking Mars bars, right? Plate roll, plate roll, plate roll, plate roll, anti-clotting, and generally eating an anti-inflammatory diet and anti-inflammatory foods, because the more things that you eat that cause inflammation, the more likely you are to have clotting issues. Really working at reversing diabetes, because when you damage hemoglobin A1C, when you have a buildup of sugar in the system, it causes things to stick to each other. You have platelets stick into red blood, stick into white blood cells. You just have a clotting potential, and that's why diabetes is another potential comorbidity. So if you follow the plate rule and you really try to eat, naturally low sugar things and higher fats and lots of vegetables, then you'll be in good hands on that. Lifestyle wise, moderate exercise keeps the blood flushing, keeps the veins and the arteries clear. You don't want to do anything where you're sitting for long periods of time. So this is probably the longest I ever sit is for this webinar. But you want to be getting up on the regular basis, and or at least doing some leg exercises and things like that. You want to keep active and moving in order to prevent stagnation and clotting. If you are overweight, you want to do things to help lose weight. If you are a smoker, smoking tends to increase your risk of clotting. So if you are ever considering not smoking or quitting smoking, COVID-19 is a good time to do it, right? So those are some things that you can do on your own. And here's another recipe for you that I know I'm going to have to post on our website, but take a picture of it or write it down. This is a clot preventing cocktail that you can make, so you don't need to have extra supplements, but it's just a great tasting. It's also very good tonic for the liver. The best time to drink this is actually in the morning. So you would stir together and drink basically in hot water. A tablespoon of apple cider. I use organic Bragg's. A tablespoon of freshly squeezed lemon juice. You can even do a little of the zest if it's organic. A tablespoon of fresh grated ginger, or a quarter of a teaspoon of dried ginger. I like very, very strong ginger. So if ginger is not something you like, don't put it in there, or you can cut it to like a teaspoon or something like that. My tip is I keep organic ginger root fresh in the freezer in a Ziploc baggie, and I have like a Pampered Chef kind of zester, and I just take it out and I zest it into everything when I want to use either lemon to zest or the ginger. So keep the ginger in the freezer, that way it won't go bad. And then if you add a quarter of a teaspoon of turmeric powder, that turmeric powder that you have in your spice cabinet is not going to be as potent as the curcumin supplements. Those are standardized to have a certain amount of curcumin in them. But cooking with turmeric, why not? It doesn't really have a ton of flavor. It's kind of earthy flavored. It turns everything orange. It will stain stuff, but it's kind of cool. And it's really good for you. It's a natural anti-blood thinner, immune support. So a quarter of a teaspoon of turmeric, 1 cup of hot or warm water, a teaspoon of Manuka honey. So here's how you can use your medicinal All right, I should be reconnected. Let's just double check here. That was weird.
I lost my connection too.
All right, can you guys hear me? And can you see me? Am I up?
I don't think so.
I'm still counting.
All right. What did you push? Did you push that?
I didn't push anything.
Try to push that right there. No, this. That'll reset the
Do I have to just reset everything?
We'll just go back on there.
And?
No, then turn on your camera and then go right here.
All right, is that good? Do you guys have sound now? All right, there's a bit of a delay. Can't hear you. Can you hear me? My picture's small. How do you make my picture bigger? All right. Yay, everybody can hear. Woo! Whew. Back online. No problem. It all worked out because I eat chocolate. Okay, so, all right. Good job. Okay, so we got the recipe, right? This is an awesome clot preventing recipe. So it looks like I bumped out at the right time. We didn't miss anything crazy. But we'll get that posted to you. It's probably somewhere in our blog from a million years ago as well. So let's move on. So so here we go. So we've got Natozyme is our nattokinase. If someone wants to get the extra fermented soy to help with breaking down fibrin, which is that fibrotic material that can lead to clotting. I'm eating my chocolate with you. I should have brought some. Omega-3 fish oil. We've got an artery clear. That's not on our store. If you actually, we prescribe that to certain people. There's a way of taking that. So if that's, I don't recommend that you just take that indiscriminately, but you've got your biocidin that has garlic and medicinal mushrooms in it. And then of course we see the alaberb, the berberine, and the turmeric. Okay. And then of course you have IV nutrients that can help with preventing clotting. We've got Myers cocktail, and there's Dr. Tom doing his ozone, getting his ozone treatment. I just got mine this week. The cool thing when you get the ozone is, see how dark his blood is when it comes out? It's actually collecting on the top right of the screen. You can see the ozone bag or the blood collecting bag. When it gets hit with ozone, it turns into this bright, like tomato orangey red. It's so beautiful. And then that just gets put through the ultraviolet. So it's a double whammy against any viruses. And I can tell you, based on research that is not coming out of the United States, but that's coming out of Italy and China and Spain, a lot of promoting of ozone IV in this similar manner in hospitals has been able to help prevent people from needing to be put on a ventilator in the first place. And then, of course, B12 shots, B12, very promoting to your immune cells and your macrophages. Oh, goodness gracious. Well, we're having all kinds of technical difficulties today. It shows up?
Yeah. Give it a minute.
All right. Can you guys see the slide that just came up? Can you guys still hear me? Okay, they can see it. I'll just read it off Dr. Tom's computer. Okay, this was actually, I had to translate this from Italian. It's actually in Italian. Maybe that's why it's not showing up. Okay, but the chart actually is from, it was patients in Italy that got treated with ozone IV for COVID-19 versus patients that weren't treated. They were treated with the regular conventional. And so the the table on the left, 40 patients were treated with ozone, and the table on the right, they were treated with standard care. And the markers improved significantly better in the ozone patients than in the no ozone patients. So that the highlighted columns, temperature dropped significantly more in the ozone group. Blood sugar dropped significantly more in the ozone group. Creatinine, this is a kidney marker, that dropped significantly more. White blood cells, so leukocytes and lymphocytes were measured, and they actually improved. So this actually helped get the immune system back online after it had crashed in the COVID case. And then the actual PCR, that number, that word there, it's representing the actual count of viruses. And that actually went down significantly more in the ozone group. And I think it was after like 5 sessions or something. And then that last word there in Italian actually is, it's a protein that comes from fibrinolytic activity. So remember we talked about fibrinogen, which is a fibrous laying. It's clot forming, basically. That's an indication of clots. That actually lowered 54% in the ozone group and only 10% in the conventional treatment group. So ozone, in other countries, they are recognizing this, and they're allowing it to be brought into standard care. Brazil passed a law that said medical doctors should be able to use ozone as they see fit. Can you imagine medical freedom? We currently do not have that in this country. They're cracking down everywhere. So let's talk now about handling comorbidities. So high blood sugar, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. These are the nutrients. And we'll get into the food plan in a moment. But you've seen these before. So everything we talk about to support all these different facets of killing viruses and preventing viruses from getting into the cell and blocking viral replication and balancing the immune system, these are also things that help with lowering cholesterol, lowering blood pressure, and lowering blood sugar. This is stuff that we work with our diabetes reversal. So alpha lipoic acid and berberine. So that's Alaberb. That's our supplement, alpha lipoic acid and berberine. It helps with blood pressure, cholesterol lowering, blood sugar lowering, and then all that other stuff as far as the immune system and killing viruses. Berberine is no joke. Fish oil, we've seen that a million times. Vitamins B, C, D, E, and K, we've seen those a million times. Taurine, we haven't talked about much. That's actually in our sleep and relaxation bundle. Very good at helping with lowering blood pressure. Quercetin, resveratrol, curcumin, seen those a million times. L-carnitine, ubiquinol, which is CoQ10, especially if you're on a statin or a cholesterol-lowering medication. We recommend taking a CoQ10 to balance that out. Green tea and chocolate, here we go again. Magnesium, selenium, zinc, iodine, and a mineral called vanadium, which is in all of our multis, the multi-capsules and the multi-powder. Vanadium is very, very good to help with insulin resistance. So that's a good mineral. And then glutathione. And if you're doing the multi and a bundle, you're getting all of these things, and then you just have to throw in some fish oil in there or eat some good quality fish. So here we go, right? So this would be the ideal situation. Otherwise, do the best you can with food and lifestyle. At the very minimum, one of those protection bundles will help a lot. So we talked about the plate rule, and hopefully Dr. Tom is able to post the download to the plate rule. But if you go through the download, we just recommend that you try to make your main meals be 75% vegetable. Corn is not a vegetable. Grain is not a vegetable. We actually recommend no grain, especially in the beginning of trying to modify your food plan. And then a quarter of your plate, 25%, roughly 3 to 6 ounces, can be good quality protein sources. We went into detail in the webinar 2 on the plate rule. I go into detail in my books, and I've got a cool reboot boot camp virtual program we're going to talk about in a minute, where we're going to deep dive into this and get everybody back on track. And then snacks is where you put your fruits, nuts, beans, and extra vegetables. You can never go wrong with more vegetables, right? And of course, dark chocolate. So I make a nut mix with almonds and pecans and walnuts. And then I get these dark chocolate chunks from a company called Enjoy Life, which you can actually get pretty much anywhere now. Safeway has them, that kind of thing. And I essentially put a bag of all these nuts with a bag of these dark chocolate chunks. And it's a great snack. And just having that little bit of chocolate in there makes you happy. All right, so you can download the food guide. And so if you need a refresher, if those of you that are working with me, you probably already have your own food list. So this is what I was just talking about. If some of you guys have had a lot of patients email me and reach out to me saying they got themselves into a bit of trouble over the past 12 weeks. I can't believe it's been so long, 8 to 10 weeks. And so I wanted to talk to you about I put together, while we're still some of you working from home and feeling kind of isolated and a little sloth-like, I've put together a virtual reboot program. So what this is, it's from the comfort of your own home. And it's going to be 4 live weekly webinars. We're going to be doing them. They'll be Monday night webinars because that way they're not conflicting with any of our other webinar days. And it starts the week off with a bang. And it's going to be our 21-day detox kit. Some of you guys that are already, on supplements with us, there's a few that you can keep in with this kit, but the other supplements you can just put to the side. So like vitamin D and fish oil, there's no problem with keeping those in. And then this will help get back on track. So each webinar, the first one, I'll be, getting us all started. I'm going to be doing it with you. So we'll be doing the detox program together. And we'll go through the general, obviously, getting things started on the first webinar. And then it'll be weekly check-ins for 3 weeks. And then the 4th webinar will be really, okay, this is what you do to kind of keep on track and keep going and keep your head in the game long-term so that you can continue with your gains. Because unfortunately, just with this crazy situation we've been in and the extra stress and not knowing if we were pretty much not going. And, some people had some limited issues with shopping and getting out there. It's been nuts, but this is a good opportunity right now to just get back on track. We're going to be having registration open. We're going to be registering people. We were doing it till today, but I wanted to basically let you guys in on it. So we're going to have registration extended to the end of the weekend. I think Dr. Tom posted the link where you can register. He's working on it. If not, some of you guys might have gotten an email from us to register. I know some of you guys have already registered. So I need everybody registered by the end of the weekend because then we're going to put in a mass order of kits and we have to make sure we get the kits mailed to everybody. And so probably by mid-June, and we'll let you know once you're registered, we'll kind of keep you updated as to what date we're going to start. We're all going to start this reboot together and it's going to be super awesome. And what time is the Monday webinar? I don't even know yet. Probably 7, because I actually see patients till 6.
Be a replay.
Yeah, and there will be a replay. So I will do the live webinar, but if you can't get to it that day, you can watch it later that night, or you can watch it the next day. It's no problem as far as that goes. All right, but it'll be the same program we're using here, so you'll be able to put questions in the chat box and things like that. Anyway, so I think it's going to be super fun. So registrations to the end of the weekend, and then we'll order everything and we'll get everybody all set up. And then we'll let you know when our start date is, and we'll be going through it together. So it'll be like we're kind of together, even if we still can't leave the house. Okay, good. And then, of course, you guys know about our bundles. Some of you guys are taking the bundles. If you haven't heard of the bundles, you can go check them out on livinghealthmarket.com. Our zinc lozenges are back in stock. Finally, it was insane at the beginning of this. And so those are back in. Those are good to just have on hand. And then, of course, you've got your coronavirus bundles. You've got the add-ons and the extras that we've learned about today. And then, oh, good. So Dr. Tom just posted the link for anyone that's interested in doing the 21-day reboot. It's 4 webinars. It includes the kit. If you go to the link, you can read about all the details of everything that's included in it. But basically, the supplements for the kit the meal replacement shakes, and the 4 webinars with me. And I will be giving you some download forms on that first webinar so that we have ways to track our progress and whatnot. Okay, good. All right, so anyone, I mean, we didn't really get into the other medical procedures we do. If you want to learn about stem cell injections and IVs and in relation especially to COVID-19, again, there's like a lot more research coming out on that. The ozone procedures, we're still running these crazy, ridiculous promos right now. So we're doing a lot of good bundles for people and getting really good results with people. If you're interested in any of those, then you can simply click the register or reserve my appointment, which is the blue button at the bottom of your screen. It's actually on the right side of your screen if you're on a regular computer or laptop, but scroll down to the bottom of a cell phone or a tablet. That allows you to actually reserve an appointment. We block about a 30 to 60-minute appointment for you to review any medical issues. You can do that via Zoom or phone, or you can actually come into the office if you're interested in actually getting some actual IV services and treatments and whatnot like that. Okay, so I'm going to go through the chat and see what questions we have. Mostly it was just, can you hear me? Yeah, that's okay. But I went through a lot, and I think you guys see a common thread, right? Like if you really look at what we put in our basic bundle and the ultra bundle, it handles so much of all these different aspects of this virus. There's literally no reason that you would be in that 5% of people that would have a bad outcome. There's just no way. So I hope at the very least you have, knowledge is power, and you have some confidence that not only are we getting through this, we're going to get through this. Not a single one of our patients has fallen from this, so that's a good thing. I take that as a big success. Let's see. Woo, Edwin's been working on his sugar. Good job. Okay, so for Anne asking about supplements, the kit is actually included. It's going to be meal replacement shakes and capsules that support what's called phase 1 and phase 2 detoxification. So these are actually processes that the liver is supposed to be doing every single day. So we're not necessarily, we're really amping up your natural detoxification pathways. It's not a big starvation fast or something, and I'm not opposed to fasting. We do fasting in all different ways, and we'll talk about fasting actually in the reboot because there's some fun ways to do that to kick things up a notch. But you'll be eating, you'll be taking meal shakes, you'll be taking supplements, but it'll be very specifically designed to lower inflammation and to handle a lot of these comorbidities and just get people on track. It's in that 3-week period. It's not uncommon for our patients that do these with us to lose 10, 15, sometimes 20 pounds. I've had people, that had to lose more. They will lose more. So that should be no problem. And then, yes, Alex, you can have a consult. Absolutely. So what you want to do if you want to consult, not the reboot, but if you actually want to consult about your health issues and your concerns, and you want to maybe have some protocols put together for you or do some treatments, then just hit the reserve my spot button. That blue button will take you to a calendar where you can actually make an appointment with our office. You'll either be meeting with me or Dr. Tom, and then we can kind of review your history. We can send you paperwork, and we can kind of delve into just really help you stay healthy and well. Okay, monolaurin per day. So Mary Jo, yeah, so the flu season dose of monolaurin, of our monolaurin pellets, is 2 scoops per day. Okay, if you've never taken monolaurin before, I don't recommend you start there because we just don't want to have a big die-off of stuff and then you actually get some flu-like symptoms just because you killed a bunch of stuff. So I would safely start with 1 scoop a day, ramp up to 2 scoops. It's 1 scoop twice a day with food. You don't want to take it after a meal. It's fat. It'll float on the top. You want to take it in the food. And then if you're trying to be really super prophylactic, or if you already know you've got chronic viral issues, like some people have different types of herpes and things like that, then you can ramp up to 3 scoops a day. I also use this with my Lyme patients, with my Candida patients. And so at any kind of chronic viral situation, you can stay up at 3 scoops a day for a long time. Sometimes we have to keep people on that dose for quite a while. So it's very safe to do that, but just don't start there. Just ramp up nice and slow. Yes, Kiana, we do work with children. I have several children that I'm working with. I think my youngest right now is 4 that I'm working with. Super cute as a button. And I've got, you know, some 8-year-olds and 9-year-olds with various issues, chronic Lyme, chronic inflammatory response, different things like that. So we work with all kinds of ages of people. And then acid reflux meds would not conflict with doing a reboot or any of our supplements. In fact, more often than not, that's the first medication that most of our patients are able to withdraw from. My nutritionist, it's just like a routine thing when you work with Laura that the first medication to fall is acid reflux meds. Because once we get the diet correct and we get you on some actual stomach healing supplements, then but that's a special program. If you want to contact us about that, we can definitely meet about that. Again, just hit that reserve my spot button and we can get you scheduled for a consult. Okay, so L-lysine is good. It's an anti-inflammatory. That's also very good. It's good for healthy blood vessels. It's one of the supplements that's actually it's a supplement called VisImprove, which I shouldn't have named that. It's good for vision, but it's also good for so many other things that are related to small blood vessel health. So kidney health, nerve health, blood, just general cardiovascular. So that's another good one. Okay, so you guys got lots of good stuff today. You got some recipes, you got some lifestyle tips. I think you got a good handle, if not just general confidence, that you have a reference, even if you're not going to implement everything now. You've got 11 webinars now of good COVID-19 information. And so what's the cost of our reboot? $299. And that's 60% off. So this is like this group that we're getting registered. It's $299, 4 webinars. It includes the supplements, the detox kit, and all the information. I'm going to be sending you out a boatload of recipes that you won't just use for the detox. They're awesome recipes. The guidebook, and of course, every single webinar will be recorded, so you can go back and you be able to listen to that again, or if you missed it, if you weren't able to make it that week. And then there's, we'll have a Q&A with each, so we'll be able to troubleshoot generally. Okay. All right, you guys. Why do I talk so slow? Oh, Bob, you're so funny. Bob must get a sense of humor from all the chocolate he eats. That's the only thing I can think of. All right, you guys. Yeah, when I don't need to lose weight either. I don't do detoxing or fasting to lose weight. I might lose like 2 or 3 pounds. You'll probably put it back on as you get back, but this is not a fast. You're going to be eating. You should actually not be super hungry. You shouldn't be hungry at all. I don't like being hungry. And so even if you don't need to lose weight, a detox or some type of protocol to just get rebooted. It's like, I don't even want to call it a detox. We're just getting refocused, rebooted, getting our game face back on, getting some of the little things that kind of crept in and started getting us into trouble. One of my patients said she was starting to feel like a COVID sloth. We're trying to get out of this COVID sloth, like been under a rock kind of feeling, right? So it'll be fun. I think I'm looking forward to actually being in a group and doing it. So I think that'll be cool, and we'll have fun. And any of those of you who made an appointment, will talk to you or see you soon. I may be taking a pause on these COVID-19 webinars because of the other webinars that we do and doing the boot camp. So it might not be until middle of June or something, or third week of June, that I pick this back up. What I will do is, if there's COVID alerts that I feel like you guys should know about, articles, updates, we're going to just stay tuned to our emails. If you don't get our newsletter, make sure you go online to our website, mylivinghealth.com, and get signed up for our newsletter. Because articles are just coming out fast and furious. I just avoided like some of the stuff we've been talking about before, because I wanted to keep this positive and kind of get reset. And so if you guys are really interested in me doing, who knows where this world is going, right? So maybe 3 weeks we'll have to be talking about this again. I don't know. But I do want to eventually get back into doing some regular webinars, just that are educational. I want to hear about topics that you want to hear about. I know it's been very COVID centric, but it's really kind of, I think, opened up everybody's eyes to how important it is to do things for your health. That's been a big priority for people. And all of the things that we've been trying to help people with for the last 20 years in practice are the things that would help prevent a bad outcome from this stupid virus anyways, and probably any virus that comes at us. And we don't know what's coming at us in the future. So let's just hang in there together. Hopefully I'll see some of you in the reboot. And if not, we'll definitely pick some of these up. But please email us at info@mylivinghealth. You can attention it to Dr. Tom. And as far as topics that you want to hear about, or if you heard about something in the news, it's a little, health controversial, you want my opinion on it, we can whip a webinar together and just kind of stay in contact that way. All right, you guys. So reversing. Okay, you guys, have a great weekend, and we'll see some of you in the reboot, if not in the office. Bye.